Welcome back to Viewer Mailbag. This is our Five Friday Feedback Viewer Mailbag. Soon to be divorced, stay-at-home mom. Ooh, that is the title of today's letter. Howdy, Fi guys. Howdy, howdy. So, my divorce is almost official. That's where we're at. My divorce is almost official, and in the next 30 days or so, my marriage will be legally over. And I'm both relieved and terrified. After a decade together, my life is about to change in ways I'm still trying to process. The hardest part, my children and I are the ones leaving the marital home, the place that has been our foundation for so long. It's a bitter pill to swallow, especially knowing that I'm entitled to only half of the house's equity, which after debts paid off leaves me with a lump sum of $38,000. But here's the kicker. My ex, he will continue living in the home. Meanwhile, I'll be starting from scratch with just the amount, the alimony, the child support, and a new job that hasn't even started yet. I've been married for just over 10 years. 10 years that started out with love and a growing family, but over time, I ended up becoming a stay-at-home mom while my husband took care of all the financial responsibilities. I left my job when we had our first child, and in the past 9 years, aside from occasional babysitting gigs and side hustle, my career, my financial independence was put on a hold. I never expected things to change the way that they have. But now, here I am, feeling completely overwhelmed and underprepared for what is to come. Truthfully, I'm going to put a pause right there. If you are preparing for that, that is kind of crazy. Preparing for, divorce, it's kind of a wild event. Nobody wants to get divorced, obviously. But yeah, that's tough.
I think it's also important to have contingencies, though. I mean, one thing my wife and I were just talking about this yesterday, actually, was we want to make sure that our kids never feel dependent on their partners. And like that's why one of the reasons me and my wife were together for so long before we got married is we both wanted to be stable individually. And then we came together as a more stable couple. Because now there's never a fear of like, oh, my wife's going to leave me and I'm going to be destitute, or my husband's going to leave me, I'm going to be destitute, because we're both together and we're both financially well off enough to know that when we're together, it's not because of anyone being forced to do it. It's because we both choose to be there together. Because we
Interesting.
can both leave any day and both be fine. Emotionally, probably destroyed, but
yeah.
financially fine.
Yeah.
It's just a different way of looking at things.
It's definitely a different way of looking at things. I never thought about it like that. I'm trying to take control, though. I've done the math for what it will take to set my kids and myself up in a new apartment. I found a place, and the upfront costs, new beds, basic furniture, and household essentials, and first month's rent, and last month's rent deposit will come out to about $8,000. A lot of cheddar cheese. So
How
that
many
leaves,
kids she has?
dude. I don't know, because I don't know. 8,000 is too much to spend there. Truthfully,
Well, it depends on what kind of place she needs to get. Like, imagine most rent right now is $2,000. If you have to get like a 2 bedroom, it depends on the like here in Arizona. So that's 4,000 of it already taken up just by the rent. Now we're talking 4,000 for furniture and stuff to kind of make it a home. I don't know. It depends on what country, depending on what part of the country she's in too. There's a lot of factors we
so
don't
many
know enough.
variables, so many. So that leaves me with roughly $30,000 to make it all work. But this is where the uncertainty creeps in. I've never had this much money all at once, and I'm afraid I won't see this kind of sum for a long time. Everything I've been working towards has been focused on survival, on making sure my kids are okay. But now I need to figure out how to make this money stretch. How do I use it wisely for the future? And how do I not blow it all before I get my feet underneath me? The fear of making a wrong move is paralyzing. I don't have credit history to fall back on, and my work experience is pretty much non-existent for the past decade. I'm essentially starting over, both professionally and financially. And that's really weighing on me. To top it off, I've never been one to handle the finances in my marriage. That was always my husband's domain. So the idea of managing this sum is both liberating and terrifying. To get a sense
Before we
of,
before
so
we
far,
go on,
please,
I
yeah.
think this is why it's so important for both couples or both people in the relationship to not have to be the master of everything, but to at least have an understanding. You know, when you're a leader, which you are in your household, if you're the husband, the wife, the partner, whatever you want to call yourself, you are a leader in the household. And a leader on a battlefield, a leader in an office, a leader in anything, doesn't need to know every single job and every single detail of every job, but they need to know enough that if they're put in the situation that they need to take over for that job, that they can at least stand their ground for a little while. And what I'm seeing thus far is that she has made conscious decisions. And unfortunately, this is the way things have been for a very long time, in that, oh, woman stays home, man goes and works. And this has led to a lot of abuse for a lot of years. And thankfully, things are changing now. Women are becoming more, for lack of a better term, liberated from the gender norms of what have been in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good thing in a lot of ways. But it's just so important that we remember that this sucks. And you made choices all along the way to put you into this situation. I'm not blaming you as the victim. You definitely sounds like your husband's probably a piece of work if he's kicking you and your kids out. And you were there the entire step of the way to get to where you are now. That doesn't mean that you're at your final form. That doesn't mean that all hope is lost. But you put yourself into this mess and you could pull yourself out of it. I truly believe that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, getting back to it, to get a sense of what the options are, I've opened up a bank account and met with someone at the branch. They suggested I open a money market account with $25,000 of my lump sum, since that's the minimum required balance. They mentioned a 4.2% interest rate, though not fixed, and offered to connect me with financial advisors that could help me grow my money. Sounds tempting, but honestly, I'm not sure if this is the right move, or if there's something better out there for me in my position. I don't want to make a mistake and lose the little financial cushion I would have had. But right now, my biggest fear is making the wrong choice. And with no real experience in handling money on my own, I feel lost. What are my options to stretch my money as far as possible? And how do I use this fresh start to set up something stable for me and my kids? Should I stick with the money market account, talk to the financial advisor, or are there smarter moves I should consider? I'm asking for help because I really don't know who else to turn to. Any advice would mean the world to me right now, and I thank you for that. From his control to my own command, I'm taking charge with a steady hand. I like that.
This is a rough one. Okay.
That is.
This is a really rough one. There's a lot of stuff that I wish I knew more about to be able to help you a little bit better. Before I get into my thoughts, Dominic, do you have any initial thoughts, anything that you want to bring up?
I think it's important as a mother to be strong for your kids, but I don't think there's anything wrong with a dash of reality. I'm not sure how old they are, but I know that they understand that things have changed. I think as a son, seeing your parents become human is not a terrible thing. If you look up to your parents as the rock, the unshakable foundation, the hero in the story, I think that's beautiful. But all heroes fall sometimes, but it's what the hero does next that solidifies them in glory. And clearly, you've fallen, but that doesn't have to be the end of your story. And I think being the hero to yourself, to your family, to your future is important to you. My advice isn't financial advice, but it's to remember that the decisions you make, your children will remember. Maybe not all of them, but make sure the decisions you do make, you're proud of and you stand by them.
That's a good sentiment. The first thing I'm going to talk about before we get into the financial stuff is you're 30 days out from your divorce. You're going through one of the largest and most stressful life changes that a person can go through. And from what it sounds like, your husband was a piece of work. I can't imagine someone staying in the house and sending my wife and kids out and knowing that my wife doesn't have enough to care for herself. And if you don't like her, your own kids. I don't know what kind of a monster, I have to use the word monster, can do that. To send their kids out into the world with a mother who doesn't know what she's doing financially and $38,000 to her name. And yeah, you're going to be getting paid child support, which we don't know anything about that yet. And just be like, well, good luck. Like that, this is a terrible situation all around. And when you're in a terrible situation, when your emotions are heightened, sometimes the worst things we can do is just start making moves, especially moves that you can't unfix. When you go through some doors, there are things that close. In finances, it's not always forever, but it could be for a while. And right now, you don't have the ability for a while. So there's a lot of things that we need to cover here. And unfortunately, we don't have time to cover every single thing. But I want to answer her main question first and foremost. And that has to do with the $30,000. What does she do with the remaining $30,000 to allow it to stretch? How can she make this money last in her new life? And I don't think that's possible, to allow this money to last or have this $30,000 be the lifeblood that will set herself up and her kids up for a future. This $30,000 is not the vehicle that's going to get you to where you need to go. It's the lifeline that's going to get you to the point to get to the vehicle, to get to where you need to go. So first off, I'm kind of pissed off actually that she went to the bank and the bank told her to put her money into a money market account and then talk to a financial advisor. My hope is that they don't know the whole situation. This lady just comes into the bank, says, hey, I have $30,000. I don't know what to do with it. It's the bank teller's job to now say like, hey, you should buy this through the bank. You should talk to our financial advisor through the bank. But this is the importance of talking with somebody and revealing all of the information. Because we don't even have all of the information. We have some of the information. I can tell you that locking up $25,000 into a money market account at a 4.2 non-fixed interest rate would be like a terrible situation. Because if it's in a money market account, even if it's a short term, 3 months, 6 months, I don't know what it's going to be. This $30,000 is your emergency fund. You don't have a job right now. We're waiting on the job. So right now we're basically counting our eggs before they hatch. You don't have a house yet. There's so much stuff up in the air. This $30,000 is your emergency fund. This is your crisis fund. You are in the crisis. You are in the emergency. You can't be doing anything with this money. If you met with a financial advisor and they told you to do anything with this money, with the exception of keep it in a high yield savings account and be ready for the worst, that person is not working in your best interest. They're trying to get a commission or get something. This is not the time of your life to be considering, how do I retire in 30 years? What do I do? How do I invest this money so it's going to turn into $60,000 the next day and then 120 and then 240? There are people out there that will try to sell you that BS and it never works. There are no get rich quick schemes that actually work. All things in life come at a cost. Nothing is free. So when it comes to your financial options, is there a more lucrative alternative? Yes, there is for the $30,000. You can invest it, you can do things. But right now, based off your short-term needs, what's most lucrative has nothing to do with this. Personal finance is far more personal than it is finance. The money is great. The money is good. The money will help you. But right now, you need to focus on you. And locking up this money and hoping that it's going to grow and be this magical thing is not it. I could tell you the perfect plan right now, but you're the one who has to implement it. You're the one who has to walk through fire. You're the one who's putting not only yourself at risk, but also your children at risk by trying to maybe invest this money or make something happen. It's going to be hard. And I think we need to recognize that. And I know that there's a lot of people out there, social influencers, be like, oh yeah, just grit through it. You're going to make it. You'll be fine. And I do believe that all these things are true. And I also believe that it's okay to, while you're in it, admit when stuff sucks. And this just sucks. And that's okay to be in that for a little while. But after you're done feeling sad for yourself for a few hours, maybe a day, you need to ask yourself, is this feeling bad for myself? Is this wasting energy on anger, on sadness, on anxiety, on fear. Is it serving me? Or is there something more I can do? Can I put this energy towards finding a better job, towards learning? And that's where we need to go to next. In order to start to learn about your finances, you need to put in work. You're already listening to the podcast, it sounds like, and that's wonderful. We are a small part in this pond. You're going to need to be reading blogs. You're going to be needing to maybe meet with a money coach. And unfortunately, the money coach things are going to cost money. But maybe you can go to like, I don't know, a credit counselor or a adult learning center, somewhere to start learning these things, because you need to be the hero of the story. It sounds like for a long time, especially with your husband, I don't know the situation, so I don't want to really conjecture into it, but it sounds like you've been the victim and your husband's been the villain. And you're hoping that someone at the bank, that me and Dominic, that one of us, that somebody can just come and be your hero and save you from this. Might somebody come? Maybe. But is that going to happen to you? Statistically unlikely. And even if they did come, you wouldn't learn anything. You wouldn't grow. You wouldn't do this. Right now it sucks, but I can guarantee in 20, 30 years, if you look at it the right way, you're going to look back on this time and say, thank God for that moment. It sucked to lose my husband. It sucked to be put on the street. All of this was awful. And it brought me to where I am today. So if I was you, it sounds like you have a job lined up. That's great. That $30,000, if it was me, I would put it into a high yield savings account. I know there's some online that might be getting, I think there are some online right now that are getting like 4% interest rate still. And that's just a high yield savings account. You can pull that immediately. We're not locking any money up. I wouldn't lock up anything at this point.
No.
You need a job. You need stability. The talking about retirement, the figuring out the vehicle, all that stuff, that's future you problems. That's future you with more knowledge problems, more of a safety net, all this stuff. Right now, we're talking about survival. You're talking about how do I thrive? You can't pass over the survival to the thrive. You need to survive. And that's what we're focused on right now. So you need to get educated. You need to work nights. You need to work weekends. You need to get a second job, even if it's 2 minimum wage crappy jobs. Drop the kids off at the parents. I don't know. Like, you're in such a bad situation from what I don't know. Ideally, you do have parents. You have people to turn back on. At this point, I just don't know enough information to tell you that. But you need to be the hero of your story. You need to start working. You need to start to learn. You have, I think she said 20 or 30 years with this husband who
10
10
years.
years with the
10 years.
husband, 10 years with the husband of not building credit, not learning about money, not getting a job, not doing all these things. And at the time, all those things were right. And unfortunately, looking back on it, maybe they weren't the right thing. So you can either sit here and say, woe is me, and do nothing about it, or you can go out there, you can start to build the credit, start to build the job work history, start to build the financial knowledge. It's going to be tough. You're going to have to depend on people, but those people aren't your heroes. Those people are your guides. They're helping you along the way, but you're the hero of the story. And I promise you, you'll be able to make it through this. Know that there are people like Dominic and I know that there are people out there that care for people like you and want to help to the best of our ability. You know, we're reading this on a podcast for you to get you to where you want to go. All these things happen to you, and you walk through the door every single time. And now it's up to you to go out there and find the knowledge that you need to get out there to get after it. You have the advent of the internet. You have this podcast. That means you have a phone. You have the internet. You have ChatGPT. You have Gemini. You have Claude. You have you.com. You have all of them. Start asking questions. Start learning. Start growing. Become the hero of your story. We're here to support you as best as we can, but we can't do it for you. And one day your kids are going to look back and they're going to say, wow, our mom went through one of the hardest things and she made it out. And your kids won't repeat those generational sins. Ideally, you'll teach your kids to be independent of themselves so that they never find themselves in this situation, so that they can be in a position of power with their relationships and they don't repeat the same thing. I don't know the kind of person your husband was, but I have to imagine there were red flags that you overlooked. And you need to get in touch with that person, that past you, and you need to forgive them for their choices so you can move forward and become the person you need to be. That's all I got.
That's solid work right there. Solid work right there. You know, as crazy as it sounds, and it might not like it, definitely probably not going to like what I'm about to say, but the universe or God or whatever you want to say, life has blessed you with trouble. They've blessed you with a difficult situation. They've blessed you with a new chapter. And you can either look at it how you are looking at it or how you might be looking at it of woe is me. Look at the situation I'm in, victim mentality. Or you can look at it and say, I'm excited for a new chapter. I'm excited to be alive. I'm excited to have my kids behind every dragon.
Excited to be away from my husband.
Yeah, absolutely. Behind every dragon is a pot of gold. So don't forget to search for the pot of gold. And I hope you understand that reference. It's not a finance reference. It's more of a perspective reference. But that is what I have to say on that. And we wish you the best of luck. I know when a mother has kids and she's on her own, it's one of the strongest types of people out there. Can't beat them. Can't beat them. So we wish you the best of luck. You got this.
Reach out to us in the future. Please let us know. And if you need more help, you can always reach out to me. Reach out to Chris at monsonwealth.com.
This video podcast is sponsored by Mons on Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the host and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monsonwealth.com.